Hello, good morning, wherever you are watching. This is the final take with me, Seni MK Marina, from our studios here in Seattle. Today, my special guest is Honorable Talib Bensouda, the party leader and flag bearer of the newly registered political party, the Unite Party. Mr. Bensouda is currently in the United States, meeting party supporters ahead of the 2026 presidential election. On Friday night, the Unite Party had a very important meeting here in Seattle, a fundraising and gala dinner, an opportunity also for the party supporters to meet their party leader for the first time. Mr. Talib, welcome to the final take. We're supposed to have this interview over the weekend, but due to some technical issues, we couldn't. Welcome to the final take with me, Seni Marina.
Thank you, Sani, and appreciate you for inviting me here.
Okay. Mr. Bensouda, you are currently in the United States. You know, you have been here for at least 2 weeks now, meeting your political supporters, raising funds for your new political party. Can you tell us about the motive behind the U.S. Fundraising drive?
Thank you, MK. Absolutely. We've been here. We started in Atlanta, and then we moved to Seattle. And now we're in Los Angeles, and we'll end our tour in New York City. And next month, we'll be moving to Freiburg, Germany, and the United Kingdom, London. It's all a drive to, intensify engagement with the diaspora, which we call the eighth region of the Gambia, and of course to also crowdfund for our political party, which is Unite. The engagement is in two parts. One is, of course, to familiarize ourselves with our supporters currently in the diaspora. Two is to help them organize chapters across the world, um, because we know the diaspora a critical part in Gambia's development. So that's the main purpose for our coming here.
Mr. Bensouda, you had a meeting. You know, Seattle is a political capital of the Gambian diaspora. The last time you were here in Seattle, you were with your former political party, the United Democratic Party, and now you came to Seattle as a leader of your own Unite movement, now a registered political party. Can you tell us how do you assess the fundraising? Because most of your critics will be like, this is different, now that you are here on your own, you know. What's your impression about the Seattle meeting?
I think it was a major success. We are a political party that's formed within 7 months, and we're able to have people come together and say, we will represent you in the diaspora. That alone is unprecedented. Many parties have existed for many years and still don't have a diaspora presence. So for us to be able to pull it off in 7 months is great. The meeting in Seattle, like you said, we've been here under different banner. Today we are here under our own banner. Was quite interesting and was quite successful. We had a lot of Gambians show up, and a lot of them opened their wallets to contribute to the political party, which is Unite. So it was an amazing event and a great first step.
You are raising funding for your political activities back home. You are a young political party, 9 years, 9 months old, but you are able to establish a lot of regional structures in place. Tell us, how much do you raise in Seattle? Because questions have been raised that we haven't seen a lot of money being raised in Seattle. Can you give us a breakdown of how much do you raise in Seattle?
Well, nobody could claim they know how much we raised or we didn't raise. That is in the hands of the US chapter reps. We operate a bit differently. Our US has a chapter where they will bring all the funding together from the different states. Then we will know what was raised, but that is in the hand of the structures. What I can tell you is, as I was in Seattle, many people had come to offer donations, but I had asked them to give it to the treasurer. So definitely a lot of funding has been raised, but we will wait until the entire tour is ready to know exactly what was raised across the US.
Tali, what message are you carrying with you on the store? Because many people will be like, politicians carry the same message, message of hope, message of change. What message is Talib Ahmed Bensouda carrying as the flag bearer of Unite Party?
I think the first message is to, of course, confirm what Gambians already know: is our country is sinking. Um, just coming from Gambia to tell the diaspora this is indeed the case. Secondly, is to offer an alternative, which is the Unite. Many Gambians have heard about us, so we are basically here to introduce ourselves, what we stand for, what our vision is for the country. And the third, of course, is to seek the partnership of the diaspora. We just don't see them as people who will open their wallets and give money, but we want their active participation in policy formulation, their active participation in political strategy. And of course, we are here to offer them a future. Many of the diaspora don't see a future in Gambian development. We are here to tell them that we will give them the right to vote. We will offer them representation in the National Assembly, and we will, of course, structure Gambia's investment atmosphere to give them a favorable outcome so their investments are safe, secure, and yield a dividend. So
Uh,
these are the main reasons, the main messages we are here to deliver.
Talib, I remember when you were delivering your statement here in Seattle, I was in attendance. I covered the event live on our platform. When you talk about the role the Gambian diaspora play, the whole was quiet. I had a man from the background saying, "We want to vote. We want to vote. We cannot vote." Because the diaspora play a very crucial role in the economic development of the Gambia. Millions of remittances yearly are being sent by the diaspora to their families back home. Uh, do you have a specific policy that is targeting the Gambian diaspora? Should you be given the opportunity to lead the country?
Absolutely. Like you said, that man who, heckled in the background and said, please, we want the right to vote. I think he's quite right. The diaspora doesn't just contribute millions, but hundreds of millions of dollars to the Gambian economy every year, constituting 30% of GDP. Not only that, there's a lot of intellectual capacity, a lot of human capacity, as we say, the brain drain within the diaspora. So any leader wouldn't be smart to utilize, what the diaspora can offer. But also, they just don't want to keep giving and giving and giving. They also want to participate. They want to have a voice. So our policy revolves around one, giving them the right to vote, which is a fundamental right with any citizen. Two is to ensure that they have a right of representation. Uh, we are not creating this from scratch. I mean, we've seen it in Senegal. The diaspora does have diaspora reps within the parliament who advocate for the advancement of the diaspora and also a closer partnership with the diaspora. Thirdly, of course, is to look at instruments where we allow the diaspora to bring their talents home. I think that is also very, very, very important. I've met so many of them. Just this morning, I had breakfast with a few, and they said, look, we want to come back home, but we don't see a pathway. We think you would be right to devise a policy as to how we can come back home and apply our talents. Many of them are worried about loss of income, their
Mhm.
ability to take care of their family when they leave the more developed world. So we do have that in mind.
Okay. Talib, if you remember, the Constitutional Review Commission was established by an act of parliament to draft a new constitution for the Republic of the Gambia. I was part and parcel of that process. And I remember we met the officials from the local government and also from KMC. You also took part in that draft, in that consultation process. Um, The Gambia right now is at a crossroad. There is no new constitution, and without a new constitution, it will be very difficult to have a level playing field for all political actors. Is bringing back a new constitution that will stand the test of time a priority for Unite political party? Because many critics will argue that the opposition could also have done something different to bring back the draft constitution, because NPP lawmakers rejected this because they believe that the drafters of the constitution targeted President Barrow by introducing a term limit. How committed is the Unite Party to bring back a constitution that will, reflect the collective will and aspirations of Gambians?
You know, the constitution is fundamental. It must be brought back. Two-term limit is a fundamental, law, and it should be an entrenched clause. I always say, look, the constitution, of course, requires multiple layers, including referendum, including, majority at the parliament,
Mhm.
and that will take time. For me, I think one of the first things a president should do is to, protect the country from his future self, I say. Because as the president sits and gets comfortable and many advisors come, they might, talk him out of certain things he wants to do. So certainly, I think a two-term limit is something that doesn't even need to wait for a new constitution. It's something that the president should initiate, should ascend to parliament, and to just bring a two-term limit as an amendment that will later be also included in a comprehensive reform bill, which is the new constitution. But I don't think we need to wait for the new constitution before you can put in certain laws.
Okay, okay. So we will expect a unite political party to bring our draft constitution. For those watching, this is the final take with me, Seni Marina, with my special guest, Honorable Talib Ahmed Bensouda, the party leader of the Unite Political Party. Mr. Bensouda is currently in the United States meeting party supporters and raising funds ahead of the crucial December polls. Mr. Bensouda, you left the Gambia at a time when discussions for coalition building is intensifying. From media reports, the decision to elect a new flag bearer will come next month in August. Is Unite Party part of this coalition building process that is unfolding? If yes, and how? What is your position?
Yeah, we are certainly part of not just one, but several coalition talks. We hopefully, we are hopeful that there would be a positive outcome. But for Unite, like I always say, we don't believe in a coalition of convenience.
Mm,
We don't believe that a coalition should be set up just to remove an incumbent.
mm,
We believe a coalition should be set up to usher Gambia into a new era of good governance and prosperity.
mm,
We certainly don't want the mistakes of 2016 to repeat,
mm,
where a coalition was brought about under the barrel of the gun. In terms of the country was under threat. There was autocratic governance, and we were under pressure to just usher in democracy. I think now that the atmosphere is more conducive, they should be more focused on ushering good governance, such as bringing in a new constitution, ushering the much needed reforms in the civil sector, in the security sector, etc., of which we see the impact today with the high crime rate, etc.
mm,
So we should not just build coalitions to win election. I think when I hear all the conversations around, citizens and, they always talk about, oh, let's just build a coalition to win, to remove Barrow, and I say to myself, but what's the point in removing Barrow if you are going to get something much worse, or if you'll have a repeat of the same, mistakes? So I think what I'm saying in short is, for Unite, we believe the next coalition it should be a coalition to govern, focusing on reforms, focusing on policy that would uplift Gambians out of poverty, and a coalition that sticks together for the duration of the presidential term limit. And that would require one, that there's trust. Trust is fundamental. Two, that there's a shared values in terms of what they stand for and what they believe. And three, shared vision for the country. Today, for example, Unite, we believe that Gambia has to have an ambitious agenda to turn it into a regional hub for trade, commerce, etc. If somebody else believes that no, Gambia should just incrementally develop, just improve certain aspects, but doesn't have any ambitious plan to end poverty or to be a great gateway for the sub-region, then of course we don't see eye to eye with that person, and I don't think it would be prudent to enter into a coalition with that platform. But we will give all platforms a chance, and hopefully we can have a favorable outcome. But this is our stance on coalition.
Mr. Bensouda, your critics will say it will be hard for you to sit on a table right now with all the political parties, especially your former party, the United Democratic Party. Are you open to talk with them to build a coalition alliance?
Well, we share the same coalition platform, but I have
Okay.
been categorically clear. I think it will be extremely difficult to enter into a coalition with the United Democratic Party, given how strained the relationship has
Sure.
become.
Yeah.
I think this is an open secret. We are not naive. We understand the realities on the ground. And let me tell you, you see, coalitions are good, but they are not sometimes the silver bullet people expect. When you select a coalition leader, Gambians can reject that coalition leader and vote for the incumbent. So a coalition doesn't necessarily mean an automatic win. In 2016, the reason President Barrow, for the most part, was accepted by most Gambians until he won the election was because he was not a known person. People had not made their opinions about him, so it was easy to vote. So coalition building is a sensitive, instrument that could work in the favor of the opposition or could go against it. So we are not naive about who we can partner with and who we can't partner with.
But Talib, your goal here is to be the next president of the Gambia. If that is the case, will you still support a unanimous candidate from the coalition that they pick to represent the coalition as per your involvement with the coalition? If they say we choose this so person, will the Unite movement still back him because your goal is to your name to be on the ballot? And now that you get a full registration from the IEC.
Well, our goal is to stand in these elections and
Yeah.
to represent our
Yes.
party member in these elections. And
Yes.
that is our primary goal. But we understand that Gambians want a coalition. We understand that partnerships are important. So we are open to giving it a chance. But I wouldn't draw any conclusions about what will happen in the next few weeks.
But Talib, do you think you can win an election in the Gambia right now, especially 2026 elections at the time when you just enter the political field, just 1 year old?
Absolutely. There's no rules or science as far as politics is concerned. Politics is about the moment, it's about the opportunity. We've seen political parties that have been around for a lot of years and can't win elections. We've seen political candidates that have been around for many years that could not win elections. And we've seen political parties and candidates who've emerged recently and won elections. And that is not just a Gambian phenomena, it's a global phenomena. You look at President Barrow, he was chosen literally 3 months under a new banner and he won elections and he was unknown. You look at President Basir Jamai Faye, literally within 10 days, with the backing of Usman Sonko, he won. You look at what happened in Hungary, there was a movement set up in 12 months that defeated the incumbent. So politics is, people try to assess it, they try to, figure it out, but it's a people business. As much as people are complicated, politics is complicated. So meaning that we believe that we can win this election alone, but we are open to partnership. We are realist. We
Go ahead. Yeah.
Can you hear
Go
me,
ahead.
MK?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. You just went just a second, but you are back. Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. I can hear you. Yeah, guys, that's Honorable Talib Ahmed Bensouda, the Unite Party political leader, and also the flag bearer. I'm
Yeah.
speaking to him from
Sorry
Los
about that.
Angeles. Yes,
We
Manglat,
got a
I'm
we
here.
got a missed
Yeah,
call. Yeah.
yes. Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in short, yes, we think we can win this election. We have, like you said, all the structures on the ground. We're strategizing day and night. We're working to make sure Gambians understand our message, etc. However, we are open to partnerships. Whether be it individual parties or coalition platforms.
Okay. Mr. Bensouda, your supporters call you a unifier in the sense that you are young and then you are appealing to undecided voters and young people. But at the same time, your critics argue that you guys are betrayer. You betray a political party that give you everything, brought you into power. Um, did you and your party betrayed the United Democratic Party to set up the Unite movement for Change Now Unite Party?
So first of all, your first question, yes, we are unifiers. I do view myself as a unifier. I don't have a bone of discrimination in my body. You know,
Mhm.
when I see individuals, I don't see their background, I don't see their religion, I don't see their creed, even their age. All I see is a human being. And I judge human beings by their actions, not by what they say.
Mhm.
So in that sense, yes, I am a unifier because I intend for Gambians to be one people with one agenda and one mission. And that's the only way we can develop our country. We cannot develop a country where everybody holds on to their identity or looks at the other as the enemy or the stranger or the outsider. That's very fundamental for Gambia's future. To your second question, yes, of course, when we leave a political party, they are bitter, they are unhappy naturally, and they throw words and they throw insults, which we've become accustomed to. But we did not betray anybody. We have a divergent view about the future of the country. And I always say, when you say I betrayed you, it means I went and joined your enemy. I did not join the incumbent President Adama Barrow, and I have the opportunity to do so. We did a very difficult thing, a very courageous thing. When we said, no, this is not the path we want to take, we started from scratch. We believed in ourselves with all the insults, all the mudslinging, all the naysayers who said it's not possible. We have proved them wrong time and time and time again. And now, in the shortest possible time, we have registered a political party. We are present in every region, every constituency, every ward, every village. And now we are part of the conversation. I saw a story the other day where they said, Unite has emerged as one of the three possible contestants in this coming election. That alone is affirmation that we made the right choice. So we love our country first, and without our country, they cannot be a party. So as far as people say we did not betray the Gambia, then that's fine. We will not, say that we want everybody to agree with us, which is impossible. But given our support we have now, we see there's a vast majority of Gambians who agree with the formation of the Unite Movement for Change.
How diverse is Unite? Because many people said when you left the UDP, you tried to break the party by inducing some of their members to leave, and now majority of your members are former UDP members. How true is this?
Well, that's not true. I think there's a good number, yes, of our executive who are former UDP members. But if you look at our regional structures and below, it's a diverse bunch. I did not set out to break UDP. I have no intention to do that. I did not go to anybody and say, leave your party, join me. I just said, I have a new agenda, and those who want to join, join. We don't pay anybody. Politics is a sport of volunteerism. So everybody who joined us on their own free will. Many who believed I should have led the UDP in this coming election followed. So that is their personal choice, and people have to respect each other's choice in politics. Today, you look at many people who make up political parties. They came from other political parties. Even the UDP is a party that was formed in 1996. Gambia's politics has gone as far as 1965. So, of course, then a lot of people today wearing that banner were from other parties. Politics is about transition. It's about change. It's about choice.
They said you had a huge leadership potential, and I would say you were on the higher to the throne, like you were next to the throne after the UDP leader. But you were in a rush to become president. Is Talib Bensouda in any way rushing to become Gambia's next president without following the leadership hierarchy of the former party?
Absolutely not. With the UDP, we avoid discussing too much about it. We look at it as the past. We are looking to the future. There's many things that has happened inside which we don't think is prudent to talk about because it's a distraction.
Yeah.
What we have now is a message for Gambians that we have a new political platform determined to usher in new change, and what we stand for is to end poverty and bring about vast development and ethical development, and development with equity and equality, so every Gambia can see themselves in a prosperous country. This is what we want to focus on, but we don't want to talk about petty party politics or what happened or who did what to us. We think Gambians are not interested, and that is not why we're in politics.
Okay. Talib, you are yet to launch your manifesto. What are some of the key priorities on your list? Should you be given opportunity to be the next president of the Gambia? What are your main top priorities?
Yeah, so our manifesto will be centered around good governance, human development, and economic integrity. However, in actuality, what we are most concerned about is the rising cost of living, the deteriorating security situation, and of course, the reforms that are well overdue. So these are the things we will tackle in our first 100 days in office. How do we make sure the market is affordable for that mother who's struggling to put food on the table and paying their children school fees? How do we make sure that the security situation is improved where there's not a murder every other week and crimes, Gambians don't feel insecure, and our security is not outsourced to neighboring countries? Of course, like I said, how do we bring about the two-term limit? How do we, reform the Public Order Act or eradicate it? How do we ensure that there's second rounds in our elections? How do we ensure the diaspora can vote? These are the things we'll focus on in the first 100 days.
Talib, a lot of people will be like, when politicians are campaigning for a political office, they will be like, we will introduce term limit. The moment they enter office, they tend to forget about the promise they made to the electorate. Is Talib Bensouda going to be different from Adama Barrow? Because Adama Barrow said, hey guys, I will spend 3 years here and then call for an election. We are now seeing Barrow going for third term, that's 15 years.
Yeah, of course. I think somebody asked me this question yesterday in LA,
Okay.
and I said, look, when politicians promise and fail,
Yeah.
it's not that politicians are bad. Generally, it's a human nature. Even your employees in your workplace, they can promise to do something and they don't do it if you don't monitor them. So it's not about the politician. It's about the individual. This is a test of character. It's not about a classified group of people. And for me, I think I've already proven my case. When I went for my election in 2023, this was for my second term, I made a public declaration that if I win, this would be my last term as a mayor, although I do have the opportunity to do more terms. But some would say, but
Do you still hold on to
of
that
course,
statement?
absolutely, absolutely. This is my last term, regardless of what happens next election. So most politicians, what they would do is to not make any public declaration, to see how the presidential election goes. If it doesn't go in their favor, then they'll come back to the mayoral position so that they can maintain their relevance. But that's not what I did. I said, no, regardless of what happens, I believe in two terms, and I think it's time for somebody else to come and lead the KMC in 2027. And I stick by it. And, time shall prove us. But what is important, like I said, is to bring about laws that guarantee those promises. Gambia should really go past the stage where we have to rely on politicians' integrity. We have to bring about the system that says two-term limit, so there's not a choice attached to it.
Do you think that the term limits should be only applicable to government in government, like those ruling, or it should be applicable across all the board within the opposition political parties too?
I think it should be applicable to all electoral office. If you say a president should not go over two terms, then a parliamentarian should not, and then a councillor should not, a mayor should not. It allows for revival. It allows for revival of the democratic structures of a country and the governance of a country. The longer people stay in power, the longer the country is stagnant and ideas are stale, and the country has an inability to remake itself. And global development is about revival, it's about innovation, it's about change. It's about progress, and that requires new leadership every once in a while.
Talib, you have served two terms at Kanifing as the mayor, almost 10 years now. What is one of your biggest achievement as a mayor? Because your critics will argue that you focus a lot on beautification, like you beautify KMC, especially the outer part of KMC, the Westfield areas, but there is more that you could do, but you did not. So what is your biggest achievement and also your challenge, as a two-term mayor of KMC?
Well, those who say the beautification part, I think those are just low political blows. We only beautified one area in the whole of KMC. But
Yeah.
of course, our projects are vast and wide, and the scope of our work is various. However, I would like to say generally,
Yeah.
I am known to have, reformed local government, or at least shown Gambians what local government is capable of. Even with our limited powers, the poor legislative framework, our inability to control entirely our administration, we
Mhm.
have brought about projects that people never imagined possible at the local level, including comprehensive waste management, the building of municipal libraries, the introduction of municipal parks, etc. So we've done a lot of projects. So sometimes too many to even recount or remember, but we've been busy. Of course, we've had many things we could not do, but largely because of the political atmosphere and the limited powers at area councils.
Okay. So, but what will KMC remember you as, a former mayor after your this term? When you work in KMC, you must be remembered for something. What do you think KMC should remember you for?
I think history will remember me as the person who ushered in a new era of prosperity, a serious culture of public service, and ushering a professional institution from a political institution. Political memory is very short, and people tend to forget very easily. But when we walked into KMC, it was a political institution. There was literally no work happening there. There was no culture of public service. We basically revived KMC, or we basically changed it. We also showed all other area councils how local governance at least should conduct itself at the minimum. You heard when at the Commission of Inquiry, the entrepreneur Mohamed Jah came on the platform and said, look, today, 4 area councils, including Kerawan Area Council, Birkama Area Councils, and Banjul Area Council, are utilizing the Mbalit model, which was pioneered by KMC under the leadership of Talib Bensouda. That alone is a validation of what I've been saying all along. We are the council that has changed how Gambians view local governance.
Uh, and that's something that people in KMC should remember, Talib Bensouda. Mr. Bensouda, it comes to my next question. Your supporters believe that you become a target of Adama Barrow's administration because you have the potential to become the next president of the Gambia. We have seen that a commission was set up where you testify, for many days, and then the commission finished their work. The report has been submitted to the president. And then we have also seen leaked media reports from the commission that your council is, is implicated in some financial irregularities. Do you think that the commission was set up to target you because you were a threat to President Barrow? And what's your take on the commission's final report? Or did you see the report in whole or part?
Yep. So, I think it's public knowledge. The commission was set up primarily for me, primarily for two reasons. One, I was with the opposition, the major opposition, the UDP.
Mm-hmm.
Two, I was seen as a emerging leader and a potential candidate for that opposition come 2026. And President Barrow, in fear of what he knows I am capable of, and the abilities we have to win an election, he was advising to setting up this commission, thinking that I would be personally implicated and that would, disqualify me from partaking in those elections. Unfortunately for them, I think their plan has fallen apart. I have seen the full report of the commission. I have no personal liability against me or misconduct. It's all administrative issues linked to, like I said, a lack of reforms in local governance, just like most government departments, and lack of powers from the office of the mayor. We inherit our administration. We don't come with our team. We inherit a system, and as much as we try to change it, we have very limited powers. So it's a verdict on local governance, because what you see in the commission of inquiry is this is across the board. There's no area council that was unscathed. But let me tell you, MK, this is true for all of Gambia government. Why target just local governance? We've seen audit reports from OP. We've seen audit reports from
Yeah.
government departments, billions and billions of dollars in misappropriated funds, allegations of corruption, misuse and abuse. But one thing I can tell you, local governance under my era is 10 times better than what was happening in the era before that, under the previous
But,
era.
but, but Talib, you
But
were not the
but
only mayor who was called to this commission. It was across the board, like your other colleagues in Janjambure, in Mansakonko, in Brikama Area Council, all were called to come and testify and then give
yeah.
evidence at the commission, right?
Well, it's political strategy. If they sent a sniper to war and he shot only me, they'll know that, oh, this is their target. So this is what I say, strategy of carpet bombing. They just bomb the entire place like World War II and kill their target in the chaos. So it was a strategy not to be seen that they were after me. But remember, MK, the first commission of inquiry is not this one.
Yeah.
It was through the ministry. There was a ministerial commission of inquiry before this commission of inquiry targeting only KMC, but we defeated it in court.
Yeah, I
That
remember
is
the
that is
landmark.
where they came back to the president and say, now our sniper operation has missed. Let's now carpet bomb.
So, Talib, this is interesting because
Yeah.
the report has not been made public. But you are telling me right now that you have read this report exclusively. Do you think that the report posed any legal challenge to your candidacy?
No, it does not. And it's unfortunate. The report was being read on the newspapers. Newspapers were
Yeah, some
openly,
newspapers got a
and
leak
there's laws against that. There's laws against commission of inquiry reports being
been leaked
released
out. Yes.
before the government white paper. So what that tells us is government itself leaked that report, or members of the ruling party, because they were the only ones with access to it. But anyway, I've seen what they have leaked, and there's no personal, liabilities against me, and I have received my letter, because the Commission of Inquiry law says every person who has an adverse finding will be served
Okay, with a
their
letter.
personal adverse findings. And for me, the one they serve me has nothing to do with misconduct or liabilities.
There is no legal implication of the letter
No
you received.
legal, no legal implications. It's just one thing I don't like is just the wording used in my letter, which I don't like, because I would always fight for my credibility and to clarify my position. However, there's no legal aspect of that letter. Yeah.
Talib, recently people are surprised that your party is just 9 months old, but you are able to get a lot of mobility, like vehicles, motorbikes for your grassroots supporters. Tell us about your source of political funding. This is concerning. People are like, how rich are you to be able to acquire all these resources, to supply,
Right.
motorbikes and, vehicles? Just a 9 month old baby.
Right. So the movement is 9 months, but the political party from the day of registration is 7 months. I just
Yeah,
want to make that
yeah,
clarification.
yeah, yeah.
But like I've said before, when we just started, it was more of, knocking on doors of family, friends, well wishers, and say, look, we are starting a political movement. We need
Mhm.
support. That's how the initial funding came through. Of course, now that the party has grown, we have diaspora chapters, we have more well wishers, etc. We know the only sustainable way to run a party is crowdfunding.
Yeah,
You can't
yeah,
go
go
back to the
for me.
same family, friends, and say, support me. I have put my own money in. Others who have started the party with me, such as Ibrahim Adiba, Karafa Sonkos, Yaya Mentengs, have also put a lot of their resources in this party. But all of us have utilized our networks, our well wishers, to raise a lot of money to get started. But we now are moving towards a more sustainable means of funding, meaning to institutionalize how we gather our funding, and one of them is setting up our diaspora structures. So that is why I am here personally, to get that commitment from the new structures we have set up. So it's going very well. Now we are in almost eight, different zones, five in the US and about three or four in Europe and Asia. So we have diaspora chapters sprawling all over the world. So I am here to get that commitment. So it's going very well.
Is there anyone somewhere bankrolling Talib Bensouda so that when he becomes president, Talib can pay him in return?
Well, that's definitely not how I operate. Even with KMC, I have run elections, but I'm not beholden to anybody, and I will never be beholden to anybody. Like, I am more interested in governing than winning. So certainly I don't want to get into government and having to, appease anybody, or politics of patronage. So that's why I pull out my own resources. I pull out resources from people I know, family or friends or well wishers, but unconditionally. It is very, very important in Gambian politics to avoid the issue of tenderpreneurship. I call it tenderpreneurs, people who will bankroll politicians. So when
Yeah,
that guy
yeah.
goes into office, they will give them tenders. I think that is one of the things that is destroying our government, and it should be changed dramatically. Yeah.
Okay, but we
Yeah.
can safely say that Talib Bensouda is not being bankrolled by someone we don't know, because recently a political party leader was arrested because they believe that someone is trying to bankroll him, and questions have been raised about political funding. Even here in the U.S., you must declare who you are getting funding from.
Yeah. So I think you should start from the incumbent. You know, I don't know why people are looking at opposition figures who don't have access to government finances, but then they turn a blind eye when the incumbent brings 50 cars and a
Yeah,
million t-shirts and, resources without explanation. Why focus on an opposition figure? We can call his name Keba Madi Boya,
yeah,
when
Boya, yeah.
he brought two vehicles. In the same week, President Barrow brought about 20 vehicles, and we understand there's more on the way.
And
And why?
unite before that also bring in at least
Yeah, but
20.
like I said, we are opposition figures who don't have access to government finances, So basically, what I'm saying here is there should be a rule that is uniform across the board. If the incumbent starts revealing, okay, this is where my sources are as per the Electoral Finance Act, then everybody should also do the same, then that is fine. But if you're arresting now Keba Madi Bojang, at the same time, you're doing much more than he's doing as the incumbent government, it doesn't make any sense.
Talib, politics has already started, and you have establish your grassroots across the country. What's next for Unite Party?
We've established our grassroots, we've established our diaspora. We are refining our manifesto and we'll unveil that very soon. What is left is grassroots engagement, partnerships, etc. You know, it's just about taking the message now to the people. We have, I don't want to reveal all our plans, of course, but we are very ready. I think many people will be surprised what we have in store, inshallah, when the results are read. Politics, as much as is about messaging and ideas, is about groundwork, and we are doing very big groundwork across the length and breadth of the country.
Are you truly ready to pick on Adama Barrow with all the resources at his disposal, the incumbency advantage? How ready is Tali? Because some will question that you are not yet ready. Maybe you should be ready in 2031, not now.
No, I mean, people always think they can predict the future, but nobody can. All my political career, people will be like, oh, we are surprised he won. We are surprised he won. The primary election that I started on the UDP, many people never guessed as the youngest candidate who could not speak a word of Mandinka at the time. And what people said was going to be very important to win the ticket. I won again with the first mayoral election against some very formidable candidates. I won again. The second mayoral elections, where people said there was no chance because Adama Barrow was determined that I lose. He even got his state minister to leave his post and campaign to become mayor. I won again with the odds against us, with the same resources, with the president going house to house. So people talk about politics like they can see the future, but nobody can see the future. One thing that I believe in is surveys and polling, and I think that's a guide to show where trends are going and where voters are likely to vote, and we respect those pollings. So for us, that is more of an indication that just political opinions.
Some will say you are a very privileged man, meaning you come from a very rich family, so you might not feel the suffering of ordinary Gambian kids. Working in Kudang, I will say where I am from in Kudang, is Starlink that privilege or an ordinary kid that any other Gambian kids walking in the streets in Kauru, Georgetown?
I think these are all political narratives. They tried many things and it didn't work. Now this is the latest. I often say, number one, if I was out of touch, I don't think I would have been mayor of KMC. There's way more poor people in KMC than people who are well off. There's something called the urban poor. And if you cannot relate to somebody in Talinding or Fajikunda, you certainly won't be able to relate with somebody in Kaur, etc. Secondly, when they say, oh, he comes from a rich family, it's only now that is convenient. But because they didn't know me before I became mayor. I always say in Gambia, independence was 1965. All money is new money. There's no old wealth because we just got independence from the British in 1965. My parents were civil servants. They were not business people. Both my parents were civil servants. In 1994, my father was retired. Then my mother started her law firm and she worked very hard to build it from ground up. And then that was what gave us an opportunity to go get external education. So all of this was a journey. So I had to work a lot for what I have today personally. I started, hustling in Canada. I did painting jobs, etc. And then when I came back, I started my own business from scratch. That I would not be able to build it to this level without understanding the Gambia and Gambians and the terrain. And I am somebody who says, okay, if people say I have money, I want to own it. I want to own that, because at the end of the day, MK, I don't think Gambia should be about, how do we ensure that poor people's lives are just a little bit better. I think Gambia's end goal should be how to end poverty totally. We should not glorify or even celebrate poverty. We should ensure that every child that is born in that country, in our country, is not born in poverty. That is not a normal human condition. Even if you break down the word poverty, it's about scarcity. Scarcity of health, scarcity of education, scarcity of the basic materials you need for survival. We should go beyond that. That's why our ambitious agenda now is to ensure that, even politicians in the future are people from well-off backgrounds, that they should no more be poor Gambian households. That is our goal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talib, I will bring you back to a little bit about coalition because that's the hot topic right now. Coalition building processes from 2016. History has taught us that coalition governments never last. We have seen it in Senegal, we have seen it in Gambia, and now you guys are coming together to form another coalition agreement, kind of. What's your relationship with other political parties? Because in coalition building, trust and your relationship matters a lot. What's your relationship with other political leaders, including your former party leader, lawyer Usainu Dabo?
Political, relationship with all parties is great. Of course, with the exception of the UDP.
Yeah,
The relationship with all party leaders is ranging from cordial to very good. With the UDP party leader, the relationship is cordial, though there's no
yeah,
interaction.
yeah. No formal
However,
communication. Yeah,
there's mutual respect. I never say anything negative about
yeah.
Usain Dabo. But of course, with the party itself, there's friction and a tension. So that goes without saying. That's public information. I would not sit here and pretend otherwise. So entering a coalition with the UDP will be extremely difficult, and some say near impossible. But generally, what you were saying about coalitions, like you said, should not be about just winning elections,
Yeah.
because it's almost like you're deceiving the Gambian people. You're telling them, "Oh, vote for us, we'll bring change." As soon as you win, the coalition collapses, and then it's like what Gambians aspired for, what Gambians believed, is not the case. So that's why I am being honest from the beginning. Coalitions that we will be part of are coalitions we believe will last the test of time.
Hmm.
We believe will govern together. We believe it will not fall apart. But today, imagine we come out celebrating, oh, Kumbaya, UDP, Unite are now together. And then right after election,
Yeah.
fighting, and then we fall apart. How will Gambians view us? So Gambians already
But
have
this has
a
been history of
distrust.
coalition.
Yes, Gambians already have a distrust of coalitions.
Yeah,
If another one fails, that would be the final nail in the
yeah,
coffin.
yeah.
Coalition will never be accepted
Never.
in Gambian history again. So that's why I said from now, I'll be very honest. We will not enter a coalition that I don't or we don't have any trust. We will not enter a coalition where there's no shared values or no vision. True, people have called for coalition talks. We have attended in good faith, but we are listening. There's a lot happening inside these coalition meetings that the public are not au fait to. But when I go back, is one of the things that I will, be more open about, because I will get the facts on the ground about how talks have been going.
But but,
But
but then
but
but
saying it,
then uh, but
yeah.
then
So
Talib,
so
Go
So
ahead. Go ahead.
I think right now we are engaged in about three different
Coalition.
coalition platforms.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, and I see the PDOIS have also come with a coalition platform.
Yeah. Yeah.
Many people feel like we should rush and just select a candidate. These are the mistakes that caused the breakdown of the coalition. I don't think there's anything to rush. I think it's very important for one to take their time. True, there's no time before elections, but there's time. I don't think we should just be set up to try to win an election. That would be dishonest to the Gambian people. I think we should set up to try to bring the change people want. Now, imagine saying me, there's a coalition that wins the next election. Adama Barrow is gone, and then we are back to the same insecurity, the same political differences, the same lack of electricity. How painful would that be?
Oh, yeah, because when the 2016 coalition came, that was the campaign. They said they're going to end the electricity crisis, bring us a new constitution, reform the security sector, and also hold those accountable, those who implicated in vicious human rights violation that gave the setting of the Truth Commission. But Talib, this is complicated. I don't want to. We are left with at least 4 minutes. I don't want to, but it will be hard right now because the coalition discussions in the Gambia right now is revolving around party led. And the biggest political party claim that in any coalition dealing, they will have to lead that coalition to victory or so, whatever you might call it. And here you are, Unite Party will find it hard to sit with their former political party in a coalition dialogue. Meaning Talib might not even be part of this coalition. This is my thinking.
So the coalitions we are part of have all voted for candidate-led model.
Yeah. Not
Yes,
not party led.
not party-led.
Okay, that need to be clear.
All the coalitions we are part of, where our name is featured, have already voted for a candidate-led model, which is all parties have to drop their colors. We have to create a uniform platform, and then we will ascend a candidate.
Is
That
your
is
party
what is
open to that candidate led?
our party is open to that. We voted for that and we subscribe to that, and that is what the platform we have subscribed to has agreed on. So any other
Mhm.
model that comes, if not that, we are not going to be part of that, because that is what we have agreed,
But
and that
Talib,
was what was.
there's this
uh,
general feeling that
yeah.
only a coalition can unseat Adama Barrow, and here you are without candidate led. Unite Party will not form part of any coalition, meaning your chances of sitting Barrow are very slim,
No, what I'm saying is all the coalitions we are part of have already voted for a candidate-led model.
and you
That
are
is
okay with that.
Yes, that's what we are for. We voted for candidate-led model, meaning that if we are going to join a coalition, the coalition must share a uniform platform. We must come up with a new political structure that accumulates all our strength with a new brand that says this is a platform for the Gambia. And when they enter into government, they must rule in that format. Remember, I said very clearly the only way we will be part of a coalition is if that coalition intends to govern, not just to win elections. But if we all carry our political colors, our political parties, and we say we are going to back one party, when that party wins, they're going to focus on their party. That's common sense, Sani. Let's be realistic. That party will say, look, I am the lead here. The ministers will come from my party. The parliamentarians will come from my party, and I am in power.
No, but
They will
Tony, when you
be
look at
so
the
so.
2016,
Yeah,
when you look at
yeah.
the 2016, that happened. But what happened later? President Barrow stand on his own. He was backed by the UDP, and UDP formed at least majority in his cabinet. But at the end of the day, he sacked all of them until he established his own
Well,
political party.
no. Before the divorce between UDP and President Barrow,
Barrow.
there was started to be a divorce between UDP and coalition partners. whether people like to
Yes.
admit it or not. So basically, even with that model, you had the struggle of political
Yeah.
parties refusing to work together. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what is important for us is there must be trust, because in 2016, I believe political parties who did not necessarily trust each other just came together to rescue the country from the
Yeah.
clutches of
Yeah. Yeah.
dictatorship. That's
Dictatorship.
why I said I never regret what happened in 2016. It was necessary for the time and the issues we were dealing with. But in 2026, it is not necessary. In 2026, what is necessary is a coalition must be in it to govern, not just in it to win, because
And
Gambia cannot afford another 10 years
yeah.
of
Yeah.
decadence. It cannot afford another 10 years of
Back and
backwardness.
forth. Yeah.
And ultimately, what will happen if another coalition won and then it fell apart or it disappointed Gambians? Gambians will lose faith in Gambia's political system to fix Gambia's problems. And that also is very dangerous. So we want to be responsible players at this moment, looking at the future and working backwards. Okay, so that's
Have
why
you
I
have you have
said,
you have,
yeah,
have you reached out to other political parties to
we
come
have
and
reached out
join?
to every political party across the length and breadth of this country, even just to pay a courtesy call or to start seeing areas of alignment, etc. Because we want to start to align as far as vision is concerned for the country, purpose is concerned for the country, and that would make it easier to have trust.
Have
Today,
you
me and
reached
you,
to your
Saini,
have you reached to your grandpa's party, the PPP? Because I had some rumors that you tried to meet the PPP leadership for a coalition talk. No.
no, we have met every, like I said, political platform. I always
Okay.
say, with the exception of the UDP and NPP,
Yeah.
we have met every political platform in this country. So people have the right to affiliate and associate. We respect everybody to make their partnerships. One thing I would advise against is making coalitions within coalitions, because that would break down talks. But generally, we engage with everybody.
So you don't think it's the time for parties, forming individual coalition rather than coming into the grand coalition of which Unite Party is part of?
That is their freedom. You can form coalitions any way you see fit for yourself and your party. That is the one of the fundamental rights the Constitution safeguards is the right of association. However, I would say it is poor political strategy to form couplings in a group where everybody is discussing. So, for example, if me, yourself, and a third person are trying to enter into coalition as three parties, if myself and yourself partner, that other third party would not see it as a positive thing.
With or without coalition, will we see Talib Ahmed Bensouda name on the ballot come December 5th, 2026?
With or without coalition, we are determined to contest these elections and the elections that are coming after that, both parliamentary and local government.
But people contest election to win. Are you hopeful that you're
We
going to win?
Yes, we are in it to win it by all means. But one of the important things for me, that's why I said in Atlanta, I always had two battles: a personal battle, which was with the government, and a battle of the people, which is a political party. Because having a political party as an institution ensures that you are going concern, and then as a presidential candidate you stand, but people who desire to be parliamentarian candidates can stand, people who desire to be mayors and councillors can also stand, meaning this is a party for the people, not just yourself.
So Talib, Unite will file in candidates for national election and local government and even mayoral.
53 constituency seats, 8 regional seats, and 120 ward seats we will file for all.
Wow. This young man is ready, to take
Mm.
over the political landscape. For those who watching, we are almost at the tail end of this, I would say, very interesting conversation. These are the conversations I like to hold with political leaders, but it's always hard to get you. But I must commend you because I have been following you. Maybe you are not a fan of MK, but
No, no, no. We are friends. We are friends from the dinner.
yeah, we are friends now. So because you accuse me of being very critical of you, and I don't think I am critical. We are just doing our job
It's
as journalists.
democracy.
But yeah, it's democracy. But I
Uh,
definitely appreciate this. Talib, someone working all the way from Farah to right now, what message are you sending to Gambians? Your final message before I let you go.
Elections are difficult, they're complicated, but they're necessary. As far as we conduct it with respect and with the end goal that this is for country, not for individual or party, it is very important that we as Gambians maintain our unity and closeness. We've always been known for our hospitality.
Yeah,
Look at my shirt, Smiling Coast. We've always
yeah,
been known
yeah.
as the Smiling Coast of Africa. So we must maintain that brand. What we want to see is a Gambia where there's no more poverty. A Gambia where a mother, can afford, school, can afford a living for their family. A father can stand with pride that, they have built a home for their family and they have that dignity. So to achieve that, we must come together. To achieve that, we must understand that though we may have some differences, our fundamental desire is to see a prosperous and progressive Gambia.
Okay. Talib, one more. Talib, election is coming and there is a lot of hate speech. And a lot of people believe that political leaders have responsibility to combat hate speech, misinformation, especially in the era of AI. For the first time, government election, we are going to election with the advent of AI, and we have seen the implication what AI can do. What role and advice, do you have in terms of combating hate speech and the use of deep fake news, in election? Is Talib condemning anyone involving in this, be a United Party member or a UDP party or any other party supporters who are engaged in hate speech, misinformation, and deep AI fake news?
Of course, we condemn it in all aspects, but we will legislate around it.
Okay.
When we come to power, it's not just about talking about it, it's legislating around it. Some things need to be frankly made illegal, and government must enforce without fear or favor, and that's what we intend to do.
Okay. Many thanks, Talib Ahmed Bensouda, for joining us on this special interview. I went to a state that I said, no, Mayo might not even appear on this. So today, boom, I see your connection. So thank you for sparing your time.
Thank
You are
you.
speaking to me from LA, and then I understand you are having your next engagement in New York and elsewhere. I wish you good luck in
Thank you.
your campaign and fundraising drive. Do have a wonderful event in the US, Mayo Talib Bensouda.
Thank you, MK. Thank you. Keep it up. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Have a good one. Thank you.